Zanje chelo toje chono lao zo ba do da ne chap sun che da gi je so je be sonam dola benje zanje do bara cho zanje che do toje chono lao zo ba do da ne chap sun che da gi je so je be sonam je dola benje zanje do bara cho zanje do ji chono Chanju ba do da ne chap sun che da gi je so je be sonam je dola benje zanje do bara cho zanje dam je da wa dan de we ju dan de ba ju je do 동아리 주당 파와 주지 동아메 벤데와 남민다 와주제 녀린 차당단다베 당용라네 와주로 제 주로면데 조제제제 저 법변발로 통도와 연대는 제 테라기 때문에 로도 로용 볼로자자 선남다베 배진게 되지 말람다베 주제라도 시다시바 반저 지바발 하자는 결랑을 다시 다다도 전화로 자체가 도체가 시바 디메저 근자 제전한테 마웨니마도 망도 장배 준비 진고를 제법에 제제 칼라 통면저 리베스 제신용 상신세 인이 주인이 말라자 연대는 도법에 도제서 남주 때내를 저하는 고하던 비중에 때내 Tembe kujen chong shang la ju so pa we pa la tang lo je de je chira ki ne mo je la ma sa chen la ma so nam je ma dan ji jun da ba sa ja pe ne na chu ji ja wo pa pa lu ti ji je ku ma la la so an de to yu kun ji jiang zu le zhong so nga yi jin lo be ga den je pen de ban zhong zang lo zhong jia ba ba jian la me jia la so de jia jin so nam zu la ji je de je song la Lomere da zaba tude kari kyunga dhala de temne kunjo lama rungo je tenje chuje je la soha de nyame kari jinje tuje sik. Dije pato kanto jinje ala jewa kanto yang ta lama dan dame chuje pala long je je satang long je yonde ra doje changi. Kopa nyo dojo kenang chuje soha tewe de daso kanto nebe sacho do ne deo bo tate je wa chetan da jibe wa ze do 今天呢，这上班当中也接到这个，其中他们主要也去结果了，我都那么阿里亚还给咱们咱们这个主动打咱们干，主要关键咱们这个从这个状态给觉得都。So, first of all, I want to send my heartfelt greetings and good evening to all of you who are listening to this teaching. I was requested to give this teaching by such friends, and so so we decided to share some teachings on the 7-point mind training. Today, one session, and maybe tomorrow, the second session. So this mind training, why I chose mind training is something that I feel comfortable talking about. And also, mind training is what is needed for all of us, particularly at this time, because there are many different kinds of teachings, very sophisticated philosophical teachings, and on many different topics. But everything comes down to training of one's mind. That's why Buddha himself said, teaching means something that can tame your mind, that can train your mind. If there is such a thing which can tame and maybe train your mind, that is the teaching. So based on that particular statement, then many great scholars in India and also in Tibet formulated a teaching that is now known as a separate kind of genre, almost like you can say like it's called mind training. So in Tibet, there are two main traditions of mind training teaching. Two actually very important texts. The one is actually only 4 lines of teaching given by Manjushri Bodhisattva himself in person to the founder of the Sakya. His name is Sachin Kunganyingpo. So when Sachin Kunganyingpo was only 12 years old, then he was doing a retreat, and during that time in the retreat, then Manjushri appeared to him and gave this teaching, the 4 lines of teaching, and which is one of the most famous mind training teaching in Tibet. The other one is the one that we are now going to study, and that is the 7 points of mind training. Actually, this is taught by Indian great master Atisha Dipankara, and then later one of his disciples put together and making it now known as the 7 points of mind training. So these two are most important, most famous mind training teaching in Tibet. So we are going to study this second one, 7 points of mind training. Generally speaking, in the Mahayana tradition, there are teachings that came from Buddha himself, meaning contained in sutras. And then there are teachings teachings that one can practice while study. Those came from later commentarial treatises. And then there's a third one, which is the pit instruction. Pit instruction meaning in a few words or maybe less words, and putting all the important points together and making it simpler and easier for the disciples or the followers to study and practice. So in other words, these great masters have put everything together, all the essences in a nutshell, like not too much kind of detailed explanation, but having all the important points captured. So this particular teaching, the 7 points of mind training, belongs to that third category, which is the pit instruction category, right? So basically, this particular teaching, if you follow this teaching, if you want to practice this teaching, there's also a stages of the path, right? So these two stages of the path, meaning, as I just mentioned, the stages of the path, stages of the teaching or leading to the path, which is explained in the commentarial treatises, and then the stages of the practice or path taught in this pit instruction tradition. And this 7 points mind training composed by Atisha Dipankara, but Atisha received this from his, he had 72 teachers, but among them, the mind training teaching he received from Selimpa, one of his great teachers. So this teaching, if we categorize it, then this whole teaching can be divided into two. One is the main body of the teaching, and then the second part is the branches or limbs of the main body. And of these two, the 7 points of mind training is the more like a body of the teaching, body of the teachings on mind training. So there are many different mind training teachings, but the main body of all of these mind training or lojong in Tibetan we call lojong, main body is this one, 7 points of mind training. Everything else is considered limbs or the branches of this particular teaching. And as the title of the text itself is self kind of explanatory, that this teaching has 7 points, right? And among these 7 points, number one, very first thing that the practitioner or the one who studies this text has to train himself or herself in the preliminary teachings, preliminary practices. So, meaning before everything, before doing anything, one must actually engage in the practice of the preliminaries. So before doing the first thing that one has to do, meaning main practice is going to be the practice on the bodhicitta or the practices of the bodhisattva thought or bodhisattva, bodhisattvas enlightened mind, right? So before actually engaging in this main practice of bodhisattva thought or bodhisattva enlightenment thought, one must practice these preliminaries. And preliminary in the root text it says preliminaries is in the plural. So there are many things to do, right? And summing up all these together, there are four main things for these preliminary practices. The first one is what we have to study, and also we have to contemplate on the difficulty of obtaining this human life, human body. Human body, not just any kind of human body, but human body or human life endowed with all different kinds of, 18 different kinds of prerequisites or some excellences. So in other words, I'm not going to go into detail of those things. You can read everywhere with the preliminary teachings, but there are 18 different qualities one can have if you have a human life, human body. But even you are a human, you have a human body, human life. But if you are in a wrong place, then you wouldn't have the chance to do what you wish to do, because you will have no freedom. So I don't have to mention, like, for example, there are certain countries that you are prohibited to do certain things. That means you are lacking in that kind of qualities, right? Similarly, also, if you are too poor, for example, but you don't have extra time to think and practice, you are always going to be busy, making your ends meet, right? So these kinds of things, that because there are freedoms that you need, then you have other chances that you have to meet. So altogether, there are 18 different kinds of qualities. If you have such a human life, that human life is called precious human life, and then that's very difficult to come by. So once you have it, you have to realize it, and you have to utilize it in a meaningful way, because it wouldn't last very long. That's number one practice of the preliminaries. And the second one is you have to contemplate on the impermanence of our death. Obviously, since we were born, that means we are all going to die, right? And also another thing, another problem is we don't know when we are going to die. So death is inevitable. Certainly it's going to come. But yet at the same time, unfortunate thing was we don't know when. It could come tomorrow. It could come maybe many years later. So therefore, you cannot have any kind of confidence of time. You really have to rush. You have to utilize this chance right now because you could die anytime. But then it will be too late at that time. So that's very important preliminary practice. You have to practice those things. And then the third one is the contemplation, personal study. You have to know, and then you have to contemplate on the law of karma, right? Uh, because everything boils down to law of karma. Because particularly based on Buddhism, there is no one who does things for you, who could save you or who could punish you. You yourself, your karma will do it. So that's why uh, in Buddhism, one of the very famous statements is, you are your own boss. There's no one else, you know. And also, even though Buddhist practice like um, making offerings and also praying to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, but it's a different kind of prayer, different kind of offering. It's never meant to think that by offering these things, then Buddha will do something for us. Buddha will be happy, and then as a reward, that he will give us some good things. He will, uh, forgive us some of our sins and things like that. It's never like that because in Buddhism do not believe in such things. You are your own. You are responsible for your own action. Nobody else is responsible for your action, and also nobody is going to share your doing, which is equally, goes for both positive and negative. Your negative deeds will never be shared by anybody. Even the very compassionate Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, they wish to do that. However, it doesn't work that way. You have to be responsible for your own negative actions. Similarly, positive actions too. If you have uh, performed, good positive actions, all the result will be yours. Nobody will going to take it away from you. It doesn't work that way again. Even there are some who wish to, because otherwise today there are some very, very popular rich people. So why not, take something from them? It doesn't work that way, right? So that's why contemplating, thinking about the law of karma is very, very important because this will help us in any way of the things that we can think about. Because when we abide by our own law of karma, then there will be less violence in the world, right? The world will be a much better place. Right now, nobody is contemplating, thinking about law of karma. That's why you can see those who, create so much trouble. But from Buddhist point of view, instead of getting angry with them, we have to generate compassion for them because they are in the wrong path. They are creating their own suffering right now, right there. They are creating their own negative actions, and this will guarantee for them to go to the only one way, which is down, which is hell. So they are right now, by generating this kind of trouble in the world and creating so much, uh, uneven things with people and the whole population of the world. Basically, what they are doing is that they are actually buying their own visas to the hell realm and the hungry ghost realms. Right? So similarly, we are too. Uh, when we have a very, very good idea, good sense of the law of karma, and which is also not every now and then think about. Law of karma has to be constant. In every moment of our life, we have to think about it. So this way, we can improve ourselves. We are, and from a Christian point of view, we say we are all sinners. That's right. That's shared by the Buddhists too. So nobody is free of sins, We are sinners. However, we do have differences. Some are heavier sinner than others, right? But yet at the same time, we are all sinners. So that's why there's ample room for us to be able to improve ourselves. And the way to improve ourselves is contemplating and thinking about these law of karma and impermanence of the death and things like that. So when we are very aware, when we are very convinced ourselves that these are really going to happen with me, then we will behave, right? So that's why these are very important. These are the foundation. That's why it's called preliminaries here. Actual practice. Before actual practice, we have to have this foundation, solid foundation. So that is the law of karma. And the fourth one is the we have to also understand and contemplate on the shortcomings of the samsara. So samsara is not perfect. Actually, basically, the nature of the samsara is imperfect, right? So therefore, when you look at the nature of the samsara, you do not actually find a long-lasting positivity or positive qualities in samsara. Samsara, samsara is full of faults and shortcomings. So that's why this is also very important because since we do not have that understanding, we feel that the samsara is something that we are something worthy of our attachment. So we attach to it. We also feel in our thought that samsara is something good. But basically, if you really think about the nature of the samsara, there's nothing good about it because after all, it's a subject to destruction. So there's no really guarantee. The samsara is also a result of many things kind of put together and generated from there. But it also has from a relative point of view, it also has its limitation of its longevity. One day it will be destroyed, right? So these are the four important things as a preliminary practice before actually getting into the actual mind training practice. The actual mind training practice is none other than practice of the bodhisattva or bodhicitta, you can say, developing bodhicitta. So bodhicitta is a Sanskrit word. It means like nowadays in English translated the enlightenment thought, but which is not very I don't know whether how much it captures that, because it's a long word. Enlightenment is already there. It's Judeo-Christian term, right? But bodhi is the Sanskrit word, and chitta means mind, the body mind, mind of a body. Body means actually the awakened, the mind of the awakened one, mind of an awakened one. Okay, but of course, today's in English translation is the enlightenment thought. So this enlightenment thought or bodhicitta, there are two different kinds of bodhicittas. It's relative bodhicitta and absolute bodhicitta. Another usage of the name is also, you can say, conventional bodhicitta and ultimate bodhicitta. Okay, so those are the main practices of the mind training, and particularly the 7 points of mind training. Yeah, the main practice is that bodhicitta, right? And so these four preliminaries, like again, why we have to practice these and train ourselves in these first? It's because when you when you understand that the what we have as a human life, and in human life particularly with endowed with all these qualities, is very difficult to find, right? Difficult to come by. So that's why we will develop this appreciation of what we have. We will value this. And then also, by looking at this, the precious human life, uh, if you are able to use this in a very proper way, meaningful way, then this is very much like finding a treasure. Only treasure can be found only once in a while. Similarly, this kind of precious human birth is difficult to obtain. And so when you study this, like difficult to obtain in what way? For example, you might be thinking, what is so difficult about it? Because, we have parents and then they created us. That's it, right? No, it's not. Because there are many, many things involved. So that's why you have to study it, what it means. Um, and when all these causes and conditions uh, come together, many, many things come together, then and only then you will be born. Otherwise, Buddhism, of course, believes in past life, future life, right? You are somewhere. I am somewhere. Before I obtain this human life, human birth, I may be somewhere uh, as a other beings. So that's why this time I was born as a human being. Not only that, I'm now like practicing my own thing in a very, you know, country where freedom is, available, right? And so that's why then you value it. When you study, you will come to understand that this is something that I really have, a very precious one that I have, and that way you will not waste it for meaningless things, right? And also, why we have to think about the faults of the samsara. We have to think about faults of samsara because, as I mentioned, that we think that samsara is something worthwhile, something beautiful, something we attach to, right? But there's that danger. If you do not see the negative side or the faulty side of the samsara, then you might end up getting too much attachment to the samsara, and then you will be reborn again and again in samsara. Samsara is something you have to get rid of, right? This is all shared by Hinduism and Buddhism, like the moksha is what it is, moksha. So therefore, uh, the thinking about the cause of the samsara is actually this will help you to develop renunciation thought. You have to renounce unnecessary things. You have to renounce those mundane things, right? Those do not help you to attain nirvana. So your aim is to attain nirvana. But if you still have attachment to the samsara, then you are not letting go of samsara, and then you cannot have both, right? Samsara and nirvana at the same time. So that's why if you really serious about achieving, obtaining nirvana, then you have to let go of your attachment to samsaric things, samsara as whole. So that's why the way to do that is to first find the faults of samsara, contemplate on the then fault of samsara, and this will give you the reason, convince you why you have to let go of samsara, let go of your attachment to the samsara. Okay? So that is the preliminary, the four preliminary parts. And now the actual practice of this 7-point mind training, as I mentioned, the actual practice means bodhicitta, and there is this the conventional bodhicitta and the ultimate bodhicitta, or another way to put it is relative bodhicitta and absolute bodhicitta, right? So now the 7-point mind training, this particular text, is a little bit unusual because when it comes to the actual practice of the bodhicitta, usually in other texts, you go relative or the conventional first. First, you conventional bodhicitta you develop, and then you go to the absolute or the ultimate bodhicitta. But here in 7-point mind training, it goes with the ultimate or the absolute bodhicitta first. Okay? And this one also has like a when you actually practice, there's an absolute bodhicitta. It has two parts, like a actual meditative equipoise practice, like deeply in meditation, you are focusing on this absolute bodhicitta and be in that silent, like a absolute bodhicitta mode. So your mind has to be in that mode of absolute bodhicitta, right? That is called then your focal point is that. So it's meditative equipoise, you call. And then you get out of that, when you wake up from that deep meditation, it's a post-meditative equipoise, post-session, right? So that's why you have these practice, absolute bodhicitta. The first, even for the equipoise, this one also has a preparation and the actual practice. The preparation is you have to think uh, what kind of particular um, pleasures or the mental factors that is bothering you. For example, you know, are you a very short-tempered kind of person or a not, right? Short-tempered means then your mental affliction, uh, in terms of mental affliction, you have more kind of geared towards anger. Anger is more prevalent with you, right? You are easy to be angry and short-tempered. But if you are not like that, maybe you have more like a tendency to getting attached to something or lust or kind of yeah, attachment is the one, right? These are the things that you know yourself. So anyway, whatever the case may be, all of these are called mental afflictions. So these are the thoughts that it will arise, right? We have different kinds of thoughts arising moment after moment. So that's why, in order to minimize our different kinds of thought, then as a preliminary of this meditative equipoise, we have to practice the breathing exercise, breathing meditation, right? So breathe out, breathe in, breathe in, breathe in, and then holding in, right, a little bit, and then breathe out. And that three kind of things. In, holding there, and then out as a one circle. So you have to focus your whole attention on that breathing and do it as a meditation for like a first maybe 10 rounds and then go from there and you will see whether you can still focus on that or your thought or your mind wanders, right? So that's why in order to bring your mind into some object, we are not trained yet. So that's why our mind will go away any moment, you know. So that's why in order to bring in particularly different kinds of thoughts, we are going after different kinds of thoughts. In order not to have different kinds of thoughts, instead focusing our mind completely on this breathing in, out, you know, then you do this as a preliminary. So when you feel very comfortable with that, now I'm getting okay. I can really focus my whole attention, concentration on this breathing. Uh, you are quite comfortable. Then you go into the actual meditation on the bodhicitta, particularly so-called the meditative equipoise, like very concentrated, right? So this breathing, you know, is very important. First of all, breathing is important in one sense because it's easier for us, because it's right here. If you have something like a object or something like asking you to focus on that, it's quite difficult. We are not trained. But breathing is right there. We can feel, right? And also, even if your eyes are closed, but breathing is right there, right? And so that's why it's very important. And also breathing connects with our blood circulation. So for that reason, it's very important. And particularly when you get into tantric practice, then it's more important at that time. You will know why. Okay. And then, so that is the preparation for the meditative equipoise on the absolute bodhicitta or ultimate bodhicitta, right? And now the actual practice of it. So that is to say, like cultivation of a bodhicitta, uh, and that in particular the ultimate bodhicitta, right? Okay. So now this time, uh, so you have to contemplate, you have to think. So in your thought, what you really have to think is everything, all phenomena, all the things are actually not real. Everything what we see, what we feel, what we uh, sense, we hear, all of these are like a illusion or like a dream, right? This is something you have to think first. Um, then, then we have to think about our mind. So here the root text says, analyze the fundamental nature of unborn awareness. Our mind, um, the nature of our mind is um, awareness is there, luminosity is there, right? Yet at the same time, it has no real kind of existing nature. So that's why it's never born, unborn. So that's why it's called unborn. Fundamental nature of unborn awareness. So we have to analyze this, okay? What is this? The nature of the mind, awareness. Then also the third line, it says, even the antidote itself vanishes on its own ground. What is this antidote is referring to? The antidote here is the understanding of the emptiness, understanding of the selflessness, right? Because see, right there, our mind is unborn, right? Yet awareness is there, luminosity is there, right? So unborn means it's never been born. That means since it is never been born, then it doesn't have the existing kind of thing to hold on to something. So yeah, thing is here it used the antidote. Antidote is like when we are thinking other way around, like our mind is there, truly existent. It is born from it gave me by my father, mother, or something like that. When we have that kind of idea, that is wrong idea. So in order to get rid of that wrong idea, what we need is the antidote. And that antidote is the emptiness or the selflessness. But selflessness or the emptiness is also not truly existent. It's also not worthy of our attachment. That too, at the end, has to go. So that's what it meant. Like even the antidote itself vanishes on its own ground. Vanishes its own ground. These are very heavy duty kind of wordings here. Nobody else is going to make it empty. It has to become empty on its uh, own way or on its own, because the reason is it's never been existent from the beginning. So therefore, since it's never been existent, it cannot be also empty, because there's nothing to be empty about. Right? So that's why the antidote itself is also vanishes on its own ground. Then the essence of the path is to place the mind in the alaya. So this is very heavy, okay? So now it talks about alaya. So alaya is what? Alaya is the awareness or the mind that is talking about here. So talking about the mind in Buddhism, there are the common one and uncommon. Okay, common explanation of the mind, why it is kind of mind is kind of divided into six different things, six minds, six consciousnesses actually. It's called six consciousness, right? But when we as a human being, we do have those six consciousnesses. And out of the six, the five are related to our faculties. So that's why eye consciousness is related to our eye faculty, right? Ear consciousness, nose consciousness, so forth and so on, and body consciousness. And the sixth one is called mind consciousness, mental consciousness. And mental consciousness is related to mind, right? Mind. It doesn't have a form. It is not related to any kind of formula, I or like that. So this is shared by both Hinayana and Mahayana, meaning two different schools of Buddhism. So Buddhism is divided into like a Hinayana Mahayana, which is actually a term or name for these two different schools. But nowadays, for diplomatic reasons, I think people don't use that kind of names. Instead, there's a Theravada and Mahayana, right? But anyway, both of these share these six different things. And as I mentioned, Buddhism believes in past life and the future life, right? And what continues from past life to the future, past life to the present, and then from present to the future, what goes? What is continuing? We all know that this body is not continuing. And so both the Hinayana Mahayana or the Theravada and Mahayana will say the sixth one. Mental consciousness continues, right? And the mental consciousness is the one that carries all our karmic residues or karmic seeds. All the karmas that we have accumulated is very much like a money that you deposit in a fixed deposit account. And later it will come back to you, right? And this kind of fixed account is like this sixth mental consciousness. It's there. And this will, wherever it goes, it will, all the residues will go with it. So that's why it never be wasted. And there's no way that somebody else can make it less or make it more. You yourself can do it. You are responsible for the reason of your karma, right? Okay? So this is shared by Hinayana mind, the sixth consciousness. But Mahayana, specialty of Mahayana is they believe in this 8 different consciousnesses. Up to 6 is the same, and then 2 additional ones. So these 2 additional ones are actually a sub kind of branches, sub-shoot of this mental consciousness, 6th one. And 7th one is called defiled mental consciousness, and 8th one is called alaya consciousness, alaya vijnana. And the reason why, because mm, according to Mahayana, the mental consciousness, the sixth one, is kind of gross. So all of this will not continue from this life to next life, and it didn't come from past life. It has a very subtlety in it. And that part came from past, and it will go on to next life. That in there, that subtle part, this part is called alaya. So this sixth consciousness is everything in it, but Hinayana will not explain like that. They do not accept the seven and eight. They don't have that vocabulary at all. So that's why the Mahayana talks about the eight, and the eighth one, the alaya vichaya, is what continues from here to the next, and what came from past to present. And it will go on until you attain nirvana. When you attain in nirvana, even then, so it will not stop. It will not, cease to exist. It will transform. It will transform from a ordinary alaya consciousness to a one of the five wisdoms of the Buddha. So that's why here is talking about now the alaya. The essence of the path is to place mind in the alaya. So now explain this a little bit further. First, it says that you have to think. You have to, you have to think that everything like a dream, right? So which means whatever we see, the buildings, the cars, the road, and the people and animals, everything uh, is not separate from our own mind. All of these are our mental kind of projection. Uh, so they are not separate from our mind. And so that's why they are like a dream. And it's the appearance of our mind into something else, our mind, mental projection. Right? This is what we have seen. For example, we see different kinds of dreams, right? But obviously, we know that these are our own mind because we never been to beach when we dream about going to the beach. We never been there. We are there. We are in our bed, right? So that's why it's all our mental projection. Mhm. And so therefore, that kind of experience, dream, is not separate from our mind. Similarly, also in wake up like a state of our own being, when we see different things, these are also not separate from our mind. These are our mental projection, our own mental uh, pictures. So then you might think that by doing this kind of thing, by exercising this kind of thing, what is the benefit, right? The benefit is when you uh, become quite good at this, and you are now maybe feeling about it, not just like forcing yourself to think about this, but actually you are now feeling more, or your whole kind of experience going towards that kind of actual experience of it, right? Then it will help you to get rid of um, letting go of the object. Because we have subject object, right? Due to having subject object, then we generate many things. We develop many different kinds of thoughts. In order not to have different kinds of thoughts, first we have to get rid of object. If you don't have object, you don't have subject also. Right? Object with subject is then useless, right? So that's why this way, this will help you to minimize your attachment to objects. Then after that, after you have some kind of good experience of objects are not truly existent, these are none other than my own mental reflection. Then second thing now you have to say, how about my mind, right? And the mind also, this is like, here it says analyze, right? Analyze the fundamental nature of unborn awareness. This is what we are doing now. So what is this mind? Right? And so contemplating on the mind, thinking about our mind, you will realize that this mind is from the beginningless time, it's never been born. There's no such time that my mind started some many thousands of years ago. Right? There's no such thing like that. It's from the beginningless time. And this is one of the things in Buddhism, with from the beginningless time. It's never been born. Right? Since it's never been born, it is unborn. Right? And since it is unborn, therefore, it never ceases. There's nothing to be ceased, right? Cessation means something you first have to be developed, have to be born. And then there will be a time of its cessation. But something that's never been born, then there's not going to be a cessation of that. And so at the end, there's no cessation. So in the middle, there's no abiding also. Right? So this is how you analyze our mind. The nature of the mind is like that. So yeah, don't kind of mix up this with the relative nature of things, okay? Or conventional nature of things. Conventionally, of course, mind is there. We feel it. When we are sad, it's not comfortable. When we are jubilant, we're happy, it's comfortable. It's all because of mind. We have mind. But actually, that mind is relatively or conventionally there due to all the cosmic conditions. However, this mind is not truly existent because when we look into it, its nature, it's never been born. This is where we are going into the ultimate nature, the absolute nature of the bodhicitta or the mind. Okay, in the absolute sense, in the ultimate sense, mind is like that. Awareness is there, yet this awareness is unborn. But relatively or conventionally, everything is there. Nothing is denied at all. So don't mix up this word. That's why I said at the beginning, this 7-point mindfulness is a little bit different because it jumps onto explaining or getting into the ultimate bodhicitta first. Usually you go with conventional relative, relative explaining everything, and then at the end, you talk about its ultimate nature. But here, ultimate first, and then relative nature later. So that's why this mind, which is never been born, never been abiding, and never ceases to exist, means that its actual ultimate nature is emptiness, right? And that the nature of mind, which is emptiness, yet also awareness is there. We have to analyze it. We have to think about it. And by analyzing it this way, and then we do not find the, our mind's beginning. When did it begin? We do not find its beginning, right? And therefore, mind never existed as an ultimate sense. So here, even though we are talking about ultimate bodhicitta, and particularly now getting into the meditative equipoise, right? But when any kind of meditation you're doing, there are two different kinds of meditation. The first, those who are not trained, those who are not familiar with any kind of meditation, it is always recommended that one must do the meditation of the analytical meditation. You have to analyze everything. For example, if you want to meditate on emptiness of something, then you have to analyze. First, using all the logical reasons, and analyze the thing, and then conclusion of that analytical examination, then you put your mind in that. Then you stay in that meditation, right? This is called analytical meditation. For those who are trained, those who have done this kind of analytical meditation many times before, comfortable, then when you get into meditation, you can jump right into the actual meditation without analyzing it. But here is now beginning, so there we have to analyze it. By analyzing it, then you will see that mind has never been born, and therefore its ultimate nature is emptiness, right? And yeah, then at the end you have to put your mind into that whole like a empty nature of the mind. So in other words, empty meaning not just empty glass like that. This emptiness is like a freedom, free from all the extremes. It's free of existence, free of non-existence, free of both existence, non-existence, and free of neither also. So all the four different extremes. So that kind of free from all the extremes, and that is very much like something very freedom. Something it's not like empty hollow. Of course, right now we are just explaining it by using language. Cannot convey the actual emptiness, what it is. The actual emptiness has to be experienced from within. When you meditate, then you can feel it. When you have feeling of that emptiness, freedom, free from all the extremes, then you will have an experience that is called unutterable, inexpressible. So that is what emptiness is all about. And when you have that kind of like you are trying to speak about it, as soon as you try to speak about it, then you realize that you are not speaking about it at all. Because this is something that cannot be expressed. So then how can you speak, right? So when you have that experience, that means you are actually now getting emptiness right. But until then, we will have many different kinds of mistakes. This emptiness is a very tricky and also sophisticated topic that many great masters have warned us, because it is also dangerous because you might fall into some very strange kind of extremes or something like that. So this now getting into this ultimate nature of bodhicitta or ultimate bodhicitta, which is now the thinking about the nature of our mind, which is unborn, and also its nature, ultimate nature is emptiness. And so remaining in that state, meditative equipoise is called remaining in the view, ultimate view, okay? There are different kinds of views, right? The ultimate view is only one, no matter what. Whichever the Buddha to the ordinary sentient beings, there's only one view. Ultimate view is that no different at all. And then the second one, also even the antidote itself vanishes on its own ground. So that means here the antidote refers to the emptiness. The ultimate nature of all phenomena is emptiness, right? So when we have that understanding, when we have that thought that the ultimate nature of all phenomena is emptiness, that thought is here referred to as antidote. That thought is the antidote. And why this is the antidote? Because that thought is the opposite of grasping to the self, right? Because here, this thought is what? Everything's emptiness, all phenomena emptiness, right? Which includes self too. Self is also emptiness. Self grasping is also emptiness. So that's why this is called antidote, because it is the antidote for antidote of grasping to the self. Grasping to the self is something that we have to let go of, abandon, and antidote for that. What will help us to do that is this very thing, like everything is emptiness. Even self doesn't exist. The nature of the self is also emptiness. And that emptiness, that, everything, all phenomena, emptiness, ultimate nature is emptiness. That emptiness also is not truly existent. That emptiness itself also has to be empty. So that's called emptiness of emptiness, right? We have this kind of thing. Because if you attach to this emptiness, which is something like also existent, that's also wrong. So that's why this emptiness too, the antidote itself also vanishes into another layer of emptiness by itself. So, yeah, and antidote itself vanishes on its own ground. So its own ground refers also to the emptiness itself. So emptiness will vanishes into emptiness itself, right? And then the last one, the essence of the path is to place the mind in the alaya. Essence refers to the ultimate nature of the way things really are. Mhm. And so alaya is the clarity aspect of the mind. So our mind has a luminosity, luminous clarity. So luminous clarity aspect is the alaya. Okay. So that's why the mere clarity or luminous nature is the alaya. Mhm. And this alaya also, its own nature, ultimate nature is emptiness. So again, same thing, emptiness means it's free from all the elaborations, free from all the extremes. And so that's why place your mind in alaya, meaning place your mind in this kind of empty aspect of freedom from all the elaborations, right? But yet clarity, because this is the alaya. And then placing your mind in that kind of a state, meaning don't ment, don't exaggerate, don't do anything, basically. Don't fix it, don't make it bigger, don't make it lesser. Just place your mind in that state, the way things actually are. So placing your mind in that kind of a state and not doing anything, not elaborating or anything like that, is called actually, then concentrating on that, concentration goes on that, is the meditative equipoise. And then when you get out of that meditative equipoise during the post-meditative session, then you will see many things, right? As usual, life goes on. So therefore, we will interact with many things, we see many things. But at that time, but as a practitioner, what you have to do is, even you see things, even you experience many things, but all of them having no actual intrinsic nature or ultimate nature, yet they appear due to cause and condition. So that's why it's very much like a dream or an illusion. So you have to think that way. So everything's like illusion now. That's the during, because when you think like it, it's like an illusion, it's like an illusion, it's like a dream. That means you are actually generating thoughts, conceptual thoughts. So conceptual thought means you are out of the non-conceptual state of meditative equipoise. When you are in meditative equipoise, thoughts not coming, you stop thoughts. So that means you are in the non-conceptual meditative equipoise, but now you are out of that. Meaning now you have thoughts, but in order not to have negative thoughts, or don't let yourself go after the thoughts, like believing in that thoughts, now you have better ideas. Oh, these are also illusion, like illusion, do not exist. And so therefore, it doesn't really like shock me or doesn't surprise me, it's like that. Okay, so we stop here today.
Dear friends, on behalf of Sakya friends, I express gratitude.
강리 쪽에 덴바선제와 사자바에 덴바제 여러지 강제 büyük 대화 두제 바데사제 휴지 대화 두베도 계시면 뭐 그냥 질라나 가냐